Underworld upside down. We are talking about a massive power shift that nobody saw coming. If you think Sonny Corinthos is the only one who can run this town, prepare to have your mind blown. A ghost from the past is allegedly stepping out of the shadows, not as a victim, not as a pawn, but as a ruthless kingpin ready to claim a throne we didn't even know was empty. The board is being reset, and the casualties are going to be our favorite legacy families. If you ask me, the writers have been sitting on a gold mine for years, and it seems they are finally ready to detonate it. We are talking about the one and only Brad Cooper. But guys, erase the image of the old Brad from your minds right now. Forget the anxious, sweating, easily manipulated lab tech who was constantly caught up in someone else's manipulative scheme. Forget the man who let Nell Benson destroy his life, or the pawn who was pushed around by Julian Jerome. The Brad Cooper that is rumored to be returning to our screens is a completely different animal. The theory we are exploring today suggests a monumental evolution. Brad returning to Port Charles as a wildly powerful, untouchable figure after inheriting the lion's share of his aunt Selina Wu's criminal empire. Let us break down the sheer magnitude of this domino effect. For years, Brad was the weak link, the guy who made terrible decisions out of fear and desperation. But his time under Selina's wing, navigating the treacherous waters of the Wu faction, has fundamentally changed his DNA. He has learned the brutal art of survival in a world where weakness is a death sentence. If he steps back into town as the head of the Wu family, he is no longer asking for permission to exist in Port Charles. He is dictating the terms. And the very first domino to fall in this hypothetical new reign of power is going to be the man who still holds his heart, Lucas Jones. Right now, we know that Jen Sidwell has escaped and is orchestrating a cunning, chaotic revenge trap. Sidwell is a madman, attacking people like Ezra Boyle and ambushing Willow Kane in her own home. We know he is targeting his enemies, and by extension, the legacy family members tied to them. Lucas, being a Jones, a Corinthos by association, and deeply embedded in the hospital network, is a prime target for either Sidwell or the cornered, desperate Cassius Phazon. Imagine the scene, guys. Lucas is cornered in a dark alley or an empty hospital corridor. The threat is imminent, the weapon is drawn, and Lucas thinks this is the end. But instead of Dante Falconeri or the PCPD arriving too late, the shadows part and in steps Brad Cooper. But he does not step in begging or pleading. He steps in flanked by heavily armed Wu enforcers. With a single, cold command, Brad completely neutralizes the threat against Lucas. The psychological shockwave this will send through Lucas will be earth-shattering. Lucas has always seen Brad as someone who needed fixing, someone who was constantly drowning in his own mistakes. Seeing Brad wield absolute, terrifying power and using it exclusively to protect him will completely short-circuit Lucas's brain. This is where the dominoes really start crashing into each other. Brad's sudden display of dominance will force Lucas to reevaluate everything he thought he knew about his ex-husband. And just when Lucas is trying to process the reality of Brad, the mob boss, Brad is going to drop an even bigger bombshell, triggering the second massive domino. The theory suggests Brad will not return alone. He is going to bring a young boy with him, introducing the child to Port Charles as his legally adopted son. Guys, I need you to pause and really think about the emotional weight of this. The destruction of Bruques was entirely centered around the devastating Wiley baby swap. That trauma tore them apart and sent Brad to Pentonville. By returning with the child he adopted legally, cleanly, and on his own, Brad is making a profound statement. He is proving that he has grown up. He is showing that he can be a father without relying on a hidden agenda or a web of lies. For Lucas, who has always desperately wanted a family, seeing Brad hold this child, seeing the genuine, unconditional love in Brad's eyes, is going to be his ultimate undoing. It is a brilliant, perhaps unintentional, emotional trap. Lucas will be drawn to that child, and by extension, drawn back into Brad's orbit. We are looking at the potential for a deeply complex, unholy alliance. Lucas, the moral, upstanding doctor, might find himself willing to look the other way regarding Brad's criminal empire just to be a part of this ready-made family. The lines between right and wrong will blur as Lucas realizes that this new, dangerous Brad is actually providing the safety and family stability they never had in the past. But the domino effect of Brad's return does not stop with his love life. Oh no, the ramifications will bleed into the most urgent life or death storylines currently playing out on our screens. Let us talk about the third domino, the desperate, terrifying situation involving Britt Westbourne and Rocco Falconeri. We know Britt is unconscious, deathly sick, and trapped in a remote cabin with a panicked Rocco. We know Rocco has used a tablet to beg Charlotte and Danny for help. We also know that Nathan Passius Faison has pointed Dante and Lulu in their direction, but Ross Cullum, a known double agent working with Sidwell, is lurking in the shadows waiting to strike. If Dante and Lulu reach that cabin, they might inadvertently lead Cullum right to Britt. The PCPD and the WSB are compromised. But you know who isn't compromised? The Wu family network. If Brad is back and in control of Selina's vast resources, there is absolutely no way he is going to let his best friend die in the woods. Brad and Britt's friendship is one of the most iconic, enduring bonds in Port Charles history. So they have survived everything together. If you ask me, Brad is going to intercept that digital trail Rocco left. He has the money, the hackers, and the underground connections to find that cabin before the police even start their engines. Imagine the sheer cinematic drama of Brad Cooper orchestrating a high stakes extraction. While Dante and Lulu are navigating official channels, Brad sends a private medical team and a squad of Wu mercenaries to that cabin. He bypasses the authorities entirely. He swoops in, scoops up an unconscious Britt and a terrified Rocco, and vanishes into the night just moments before Ross Cullum arrives to finish the job. For years, Britt was the one saving Brad. She was the one covering for his mistakes, hiding his secrets, and pulling him out of the fire. Now, the tables have completely turned. Brad is the savior. He is the one with the power, the resources, and the ruthless determination to keep her safe. When Britt finally wakes up in a secure, luxurious Wu safe house, surrounded by the best private doctors money can buy, she is going to look at Brad and realize that her best friend is now one of the most dangerous men in the state. And honestly, she is going to love it. With Britt facing threats from all sides, having the head of the Wu family as her personal bodyguard changes her entire trajectory. It gives her the protection she desperately needs to recover and fight back against the forces trying to destroy her. But, guys, we have to look at the massive, unavoidable consequences of all these actions. This brings us to the final, most destructive domino, the inevitable clash of the Titans. By stepping up and flexing his muscles, by rescuing Lucas from Sidwell's men, and by snatching Britt out from under the noses of the WSB, Brad is loudly announcing his presence to the rest of the Port Charles underworld. Sonny Corinthos is currently sitting in his office, discussing bold new strategies with Rick Lansing, completely oblivious to the fact that Selina Wu's heir is already making massive moves on his chessboard. Sonny does not share power well. He never has. When he realizes that Brad Cooper, a man he used to intimidate just by looking at him, is now commanding an army of enforcers and operating with impunity in his city, the tension is going to be suffocating. Will Brad show Sonny the respect Selina did, or will he demand a bigger piece of the pie? And what about Jen Sidwell? Brad interfering with Sidwell's revenge trap by saving Lucas puts a massive target on Brad's back. But unlike the old Brad, who would have cowered in fear, this new Brad will welcome the war. He has the money, he has the muscle, and most importantly, he finally has something worth fighting for. Lucas, his new son, and his best friend Britt. However, we have to ask ourselves the most chilling question of all. In his quest to protect the people he loves, is Brad doomed to repeat the vicious cycle of violence that has plagued every single legacy family in this town? He is stepping into a world of blood and betrayal. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Can Brad maintain his humanity while sitting on a mob throne, or will the darkness of the Wu Empire eventually swallow him whole? Will Lucas be able to love a man whose hands are stained with blood, or will this new, powerful Brad ultimately destroy the very family he fought so hard to build? I don't know about you guys, but I am terrified and thrilled to find out. What do you think? Will Brad's reign of power be his ultimate redemption, or his absolute ruin?